All right, my dear.
Yes. But thank you so much for all of your support. I'm going to be making some other changes. Hi, James. 6 white people murdered in a BLM terrorist attack. Can you send me some information on that, James? Please do, because the part of the reason, James, that that these attacks on blacks are highlighted is because that's been part of America's practice. There's a lynching museum that they had when they opened it 2.5 years ago. More than 5,000 had been logged in, and us being, if you say we've been here 400 years, that's roughly a little more than one lynching per month that a black person has been in the United States before it even became the United States. And so there are many more. When they went to find the body of Emmett Till, when they went into the Mississippi River, they bumped into so many other bodies. They lost count. So no one here is ever going to the justification of taking any life. That's why I have said, and some people push back on me about this, I call, what's this young man, Kyle Rittenhouse, I call him a child. He is a child. Any 17 or 18-year-old is a child, and I want to know why he was out. I want to know about his mother, just as you want to know about black mothers and black fathers. I want to know about his dad.
That's right.
I want to know who had charge of this child. I want to know why Tucker Carlson, who is an adult, who has children himself, he's a married man with children. Why did you send a film crew to follow this boy as he's on this trial? I mean, this is not a game. And some people have pushed back on me about that. They've said, well, what he did to the way they treat black kids is the way they treat black kids is the way they need to treat him. No, the way they treat him is the way they should treat black kids, except you should give him compassion, not a pass. He murdered some people.
Right.
You know what I mean, Vicky?
I agree.
Pastor Vicky?
I agree.
I'm like, no, I want compassion for people. I want compassion. So I'm never, ever going to say that it's okay for anyone to be murdered. Nobody.
Right.
And 6 white people murdered in a BLM terrorist attack. That is not what happened in Waukesha, Wisconsin. You have a guy who was obviously disturbed, who, when he beat a woman, got a $1,000 bond. Why don't you look at that? Why is it that when he beat a woman, he could just walk out of jail?
60 seconds, everyone.
Tell me. Now, if you want to break it down, let's break it all the way down now. Why is it that a woman's life doesn't matter? The mother of his child. You kidding me?
Yeah.
No. So let's look at it all, honey. Okay? Let's look at it all. You know what I'm saying, Pastor Vicky? Just like,
yes.
What is this?
Equity is what we are looking
That's what
for.
we're looking for. And I want us to get it right. Okay? This guy who killed these people in Waukesha, who does that? And should he be prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law? Yes. Death penalty?
10
no.
seconds.
Fullest extent of the law? Yes. And I'm going to stay on that. So here we go, everybody.
Change the world, change the world. We can change the world, we can change the world, change the world.
This is the Santita Jackson Show.
War and hate to a place of love, it's not too late. Gotta save the children, we can't wait. Let's change the world.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Santita Jackson Show. Happy Thanksgiving Eve. I love it. It's Wednesday, November 24th, 2021. I'm Santita Jackson. Excuse me. It is a joy to be with you today, a day before Thanksgiving. And we're going to be talking with Dr. Roxanne Dunbar Ortiz about Thanksgiving and what really happened then and what it really means and how we might need to transform our idea of what Thanksgiving ought to be. We're going to look at Thanksgiving from the Indigenous peoples' perspective today. And of course, we'll be getting an update from attorney C.K. Hoffler about the Ahmaud Arbery murder trial. What will happen with the McMichaels? What will happen with Mr. Bryan? What will happen? We've got a lot to talk about today, and I cannot wait to hear your thoughts. I want you to call me as we go over these Thanksgiving protocols with Dr. Deborah Verholden and Dr. Shanita Knighton. What you need to do to stay safe in your homes, everybody, because your homes basically will be public places for the next few days as we eat and have a good time. Should you get tested today, as I'm going to do before I'm around my family? What are you going to do? How should we do this? We'll be talking about that. From how you use the restroom and how you handle the buffet, all of that. Should you leave the food on the table? Oh, there's just so much to go over with our doctors today. I'm Santita Jackson, coming to you from WCPT, the nation's largest progressive talk radio station, and AM 950 Radio, the voice of progressive Minnesota. Call me at 773-763-9278, 773-763 WCPT. You can text me there, and I want to hear what you're going to do for Thanksgiving. I want to know what you think about these trials that we've been in. I want you to talk to me today. I want to hear your voices before I take a few days off myself. Love it, everybody. So let's get to some of these headlines before we get to good news with Pastor Vicki Johnson. Chicago is going to be very nice today, 51 degrees and cloudy. Minneapolis, St. Paul, 49 degrees and cloudy. The Dow closed up 194 points yesterday. The NASDAQ closed down 79 points, and the S&P 500 closed up 7 points. The NBA, the Bulls will be playing the Rockets tonight, and the Heat will be facing off against the Timberwolves. It's going to be a lot of great sports over the holiday season. And in NHL, the Wild will be playing the Devils tonight. And last night, Chicago fell to the Flames. Flames 5, Chicago 2. The Unite the Right trial, everybody, a jury awarded more than $26 million in damages yesterday after finding the white nationalists who organized and participated in the violent 2017 rally in Charlottesville, liable on a state conspiracy claim and other claims, everybody. But the jury in the federal civil trial said it could not reach a verdict on 2 conspiracy claims. The violence during the Unite the Right rally turned the Virginia city, Charlottesville, into another battleground. And of course, we have to remember the death of Heather Heyer. God bless her. God bless her. Today, the jury gets the case of the white men charged in Ahmaud Arbery's death. That is the Associated Press headline. Jurors in the case of 3 white men, Travis and Gregory McMichael, a father and a son and a father, and William Ronnie Bryan. They have gone to deliberations, and they deliberated for about 6 hours on Tuesday without reaching a verdict, as they weighed prosecution arguments about the defendants that provoked this fatal confrontation against defense attorneys' insistence that their clients acted in self-defense. Now, Ahmaud Arbery's fists were supposed to have been his weapons, if you can believe that, everybody. They felt that they would have been attacked and killed by him with his fist while they had their guns. The House committee investigating the January 6th insurrection issued 5 new subpoenas yesterday targeting right-wing extremist groups that were involved in the attack on the Capitol, including the Oath Keepers and the Proud Boys. Dozens of members of both groups have been charged in the attack on the U.S. Capitol. The panel also subpoenaed Robert Patrick Lewis, chairman of the First Amendment Praetorian, a group that the committee says provided security at multiple rallies leading up to January 6th. Shortly before, an SUV barreled into a crowd of parade marchers and pedestrians on Sunday in Waukesha, Wisconsin. At least one officer described the driver as having no emotion on his face during attempts to slow him down. At least 6 people were killed, and another 62 were injured in the ensuing crash. Wow, the marching grannies, remember, they've lost at least 5. It's just heartbreaking, everybody. The youngest victim who died was only 8 years of age. A jury in Ohio ruled yesterday that 3 major pharmaceutical chains bore responsibility for the opioid epidemic in 2 Ohio counties. The civil case brought against CVS, Walmart, and Walgreens marks the first time pharmacies have been found responsible in the nationwide epidemic. And on the coronavirus front, a resurgence of coronavirus cases across Europe is feeding fears that the region's strong economic recovery from the pandemic could be jeopardized by another tough winter. Will that happen here? We will see. But now we've got Pastor Vicki Johnson. That's right. We have got Thanksgiving on our minds, but we've got some good news coming from you today. Blessings to you, Pastor Vicki Johnson of the St. Thomas Lutheran Church at 80th and Jeffrey, everybody, 1145 to 1215 every Sunday at 80th and Jeffrey. You can get a half hour of power. Go on over there, everybody. Pastor Vicki Johnson, how you doing?
I am doing well, Santita, and I would like to say good morning to all of your morning stars and friends. Happy Thanksgiving.
Yes.
On this, the eve of Thanksgiving, many of those listening are preparing for a day of abundance, shared with family and friends. Turkey and dressing, ham, macaroni and cheese, greens, string bean casserole, potato salad, cranberries, pound cake, sweet potato pies, and for some, pumpkin pies. Those of us who gathered in intimacy last year are broadening our circles under the guidelines of Dr. Deb for a safe and joyous day. At this time of Thanksgiving, let us remember that Thanksgiving is a compound word. Yes, we should have thanks to the Creator for abundance. But what about the other word, giving? What can you give? You see, tomorrow not everyone will be happy and gay. Walter Hawkins reminds us of this in his popular songs, Thank You, Lord, for all you've done for me, and Be Grateful. He says, it could have been me outdoors with no food or no clothes or all alone without a friend or just another number
With a tragic
end.
Oh, yes.
And then be grateful. He says, be grateful because there's someone else that's worse off than you. Yes. Giving comparative praise. Listen, comparative praise that you are better off than others is not enough. As a matter of fact, it's one of the lowest forms of praise. Instead of singing these songs and shouting, we should be giving to make a change. Give of your time, talent, your treasures to make the world we live in a better place. Yes, give to change the world. Connect with community organizations and faith-based institutions so that what you give can go far and wide. Give to a next-door neighbor. Give to a stranger. Give food. Give clothes. Give companionship. Give a prayer. Give a smile. Giving elevates your thanks. So with all of your thanks on tomorrow, be sure to do some giving. If you will do this, and I'm sure you will, then to me, that's good news.
Thanksgiving is a compound word. Wow.
Yes.
Thank you for that. Thank you for that. And we're going to have Dr. Roxanne Dunbar Ortiz, who's going to talk about Thanksgiving, Pastor Johnson, from the Indigenous people's perspective. They call her the myth buster, and I cannot wait to hear that. And it's done in compassion, everybody. I think the only way, Pastor Johnson, that we're going to get well is if we start telling the truth. You know, because when you tell the truth, particularly when people have been wronged, it makes everybody feel better. Burdens get lifted, you know?
Yes, I was listening to your brother yesterday tell the truth about Thanksgiving.
Yes.
Yeah, we need to know the truth.
And we're going to talk about the truth at 7:30. I grabbed her from Democracy Now. Democracy Now got her for Columbus Day. So she said she will be with me for Thanksgiving. I'm so glad about it. But it turns out, as my mother's done so much work overseas, freedom fighting, they have roomed together in South and Central America down through the years on these missions. And so it was just wonderful after, I thought I was introducing myself to her. She said, "Oh no, I know who you are. Your mother and I were roommates." I was like, "You're that Dr. Roxanne? Oh my gosh." So it was just wonderful. Wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. I love you, Pastor Vicki Johnson. I love you, love you, love you, everybody. St. Thomas Lutheran Church at 80th. It's right on the corner of 80th and Jeffrey. This Sunday, 11:45 to 12:15. Do yourself a favor. Go there and get blessed. And you'll be safe too.
And we are celebrating our 57th year anniversary this Sunday.
Yes. Wow. Congratulations. 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 So much ministering, and I'm just so glad that they have you and your husband. God bless you, Pastor Vicki Johnson.
Thank you. God bless you, Santita.
Stay tuned in. Stay tuned in, because we're going to be talking with Dr. Deborah Verholden, who's joining us right now, epidemiologist, Associate Dean of Public Health at Michigan State University. She's, of course, at their medical school, building their School of Public Health. She comes out of Johns Hopkins, and we have the honor of having her every morning. And at the bottom of the hour, we're going to be joined by Dr. Shanina Knighton so that we can walk through one of these gifts that Dr. Verholden's brought to us. As you just mentioned, Pastor Johnson, you're following Dr. Deb's directions about how we should have, how we should be really doing these holidays. And speaking of that, I'm reading this, Dr. Deb, even in highly vaccinated New England. This is from MSN. Microsoft, of course. The northern New England states of Maine, New Hampshire, and Vermont are all highly vaccinated. Indeed, they're amongst the most highly vaccinated in the United States. And they're suffering from surges that are taxing hospitals. You are dealing with the same thing in Michigan. We're seeing that in Minnesota, at AM 950 radio, where I am, the National Guard has arrived at hospitals to help these, the overrun of these cases. And I'm just wondering, we have more people vaccinated than ever before. And yet we're seeing more cases. We're seeing these surges in cases. I know I ask this of you a lot, but I'm asking it of you because people ask it of me, like James and Mark and Carol and Janae and Raphael. How you doing, sweetie, down there in Brazil? And Andre and Paula and Jewel and Hannah down in South Carolina, and Nina and Carol, not me, on the left coast out in Beverly Hills, and Barbara Bacon and Joyce and so many. Hey, Nina, people want to know, how is it that we're more vaccinated than ever before, and now they've extended, the language on vaccinations. Are you fully vaccinated? Once it was just, you got your 2 shots, or if you got the J&J, it was 1 shot. I know I'm putting a lot on you, but it's just like, I'm hearing a lot. And so I want to know, how is it that, how are we supposed to wend our way through all of this? I mean, first, we're more vaccinated than ever. Why are we having these surges? What are we doing, Dr. Deb? And what should we be doing to prevent this?
Oh, good morning. These are all great questions. I'm going to add one more question to your question. It's, what are we doing and what are we not doing?
Okay. Okay.
Right? Because there's the actions that we take that put us in harm's way, and then there's the actions that we don't take. And I just want to acknowledge, I know people are just so over coronavirus. I am too. I'm just like, enough already. I know people feel like that. However, that won't change where we are. And the virus has no emotion. The virus doesn't get tired. It's not trying to get back to its life as usual. It doesn't care about us getting back to life as usual. And the game changer really for us was the Delta variant. Delta is the dominant strain in the U.S. and in many parts of the world. It is the dominant strain. Delta tends to proliferate a lot more in that nasal cavity and in people's throat. It doesn't seem to, it looks like the effect of the vaccine on Delta is still pretty good at preventing people from getting severe illness and being hospitalized. reducing hospitalizations, because hospitalizations we're seeing are increasing among Delta, among cases of vaccinated cases with this Delta variant. And they do tend to be older or people who are sicker. But the Delta variant changed the game for us. And here's the thing that I want to really point out for people. As the virus started to evolve, right, as we began to learn things, understand what mutation looks like for this virus, we didn't adapt and change with that. We just kept on going. And then we started this myth to try to get people to get vaccinated and said, if you're vaccinated, you can, have a more regular life. If you're vaccinated, you can do things, that you previously used to do. And that's just simply not the case.
But we've been told now that we can be, if we are vaccinated, that we could be unmasked for the holiday. That's if we're with other people who are vaccinated. I mean, the people at the highest levels, your colleagues are saying that. And I guess that's part of the reason that we'll have Dr. Knighton at the bottom of the hour, but needed to isolate and let you speak to that, because this is your wheelhouse, right? I mean, what should people, when they go into the house or go into their family homes or receive people into their family homes? You said you're not masked at home, but you basically live in a pod. I mean, what should people be doing tomorrow?
Well, the reality of it is people are not going to mask at their family members' home on Thanksgiving Day. I already know that. And so I'm going to tell people there's some things that they can do for Thanksgiving, and I want them to really keep these things in mind for Christmas. With these surges happening all over the place, I want people to really get what that means. What that means is you've got more people in communities who are active cases. That's what that means. We say surge, but I need people to think. Imagine if somebody who was an active case and actively shedding virus looked radioactive, right? Like imagine if they had a green glow around them, okay? What it would mean is in the community right now, you'd have a lot of green glow. You go to the store, you look around and you see a lot of green glow, where when we were in periods of lower transmission, you wouldn't see much of that. The problem is you can't see who has this virus. And oftentimes people, and the vaccine is contributing to this, people who will have the virus might not know that they have it, right? There's a fair number of people who walk around asymptomatic or have very low symptoms that they mistake for something else, and so they don't know. And so the only thing that people can really do is practice good prevention and get tested. This thing about is what matters the most is whether or not they've been vaccinated, I think is ridiculous. What matters the most is somebody's COVID status if you're talking about preventing and reducing spread. That's the thing you need to know. What is your COVID status, not what is your vaccination status? And I say it over and over, I do fundamentally believe the vaccine is safe and effective. It's going to do more good than harm. Everybody's going to have to get vaccinated. And this is going to be something we're going to be talking about every year. Every year people are going to have to get their COVID vaccine, the same way people are advised to get their flu vaccine if they're in certain categories. The difference with the COVID vaccine is this going to be for everybody. The flu vaccine is really recommended for people who are older, who are immunocompromised, et cetera. The COVID vaccine is going to be an all of us vaccine every year. It wouldn't surprise me if pediatricians will be giving parents COVID vaccines, because it's going to be like wherever we can get somebody to show up to get it, we just going to give it to all of them, right? So, yeah, I doubt people are going to be masked up at their loved ones' homes. But what they can do is be prepared in advance. Get tested. Be responsible and reasonable about your exposure before the event. You don't want to be the person that brings COVID to the Thanksgiving event and gets grandma or auntie or uncle sick, right? And then, practice those good strategies. I'd be happy to go over that with you. Dr. Knighton and I went on with Reverend Mark yesterday and did a little podcast with him. Happy to review the 4 Ps that we've created for people to kind of remember what they can do to stay safe. And one of those Ps is to practice prevention at the event. People have to decide what that looks like for them. I doubt for most people it will include wearing masks. Why? Because people are over the mask. People have been told if you're vaccinated, you don't need a mask. And you can't eat with a mask on. A big part of the anchor around Thanksgiving is the partaking of the Thanksgiving meal. And most people aren't going to do that. And I also know that people tend to serve alcohol at these Thanksgiving feasts. And once the alcohol comes out, people's practices tend to get very relaxed and casual. So, as much as I think masking might help, it's not practical. So I don't even think we should be talking about that because simply put, people just aren't going to do that. And it's not practical. It's not feasible. But we can talk about the things that are, from preparing your space and preparing your guests to what you should do at your Thanksgiving dinner and what you should do following. And then the thing that I really want to point out to people is what can you then do to be better prepared for the Christmas season and the December holidays that are coming up, because we actually do have more time to get prepared for that.
Well, another question that I'm going to have for you when we get back on the other side of the break is what treatments, if people do get COVID, because I'm finding that, like Governor Abbott down in Texas, fully vaccinated, got COVID because he was regularly tested, which goes to your point about knowing your COVID status. He said, I didn't even know I didn't even feel bad. He was asymptomatic. They immediately put him on Regeneron, immediately, so that the mildly symptomatic or the asymptomatic would not become wildly symptomatic. And so I think that we need to know that as well. While prevention is, is better than treatment, the fact is I think we need to be armed on all fronts. That the better educated we are, the better we can combat all of this. We're talking with Dr. Deborah Verholden, our own Dr. Deb, everybody, the glamour of India. That's right. On the Santita Jackson Show, going over these Thanksgiving protocols. When people use your restroom, do you have, how you have the towel in there? No, you need to have paper towels that people need to throw away. And you need to kind of clean up behind yourself. There's a whole lot that we're going to go over in the next half hour on the Santita Jackson Show. 773-763-9278, 773-763, WCPT. Back in just a minute. Okay, thank you, Dr. Deb. Okay. I gotta get my test today. How about that? These people know me.
That's the best thing that people can do. This notion of Governor Abbott giving these monoclonal antibodies, I want to be real clear. This is a good. It makes a point that I'm making. What's most important and what I've been recommending for people. By the way, I was getting some weird feedback and I could hear myself. That has changed now. I can't hear myself.
Okay.
It was hard to speak because I could hear myself with an echo.
Okay.
While we were on, I don't know if you could hear it. I'm assuming you couldn't.
I'll look into it.
When you can hear, I can even when he just came on, I could hear myself as an echo.
Okay, he'll look into it. And just give me one moment. I've gotten several questions from people asking me about the man they termed the Black Lives Matter killer of 6 white people in Waukesha, Wisconsin. He is not a member of the Black Lives Matter movement, number one. And so immediately I have to tell you, just on the heels of the Kyle Rittenhouse case, you're braced for any and everything. But that is not what this case is. It appears that this is a very, very deeply disturbed young man. He's 39 years of age, who was out on $1,000 bail, having assaulted the mother of his child. Now, I want to know why he was out on $1,000 bail having beaten a woman. You tell me about that. You should be appalled by that as well. But this was not a hate crime. This is just, he appears to be a very disturbed young man. He is in the courtroom emotionless. I don't know how you can be emotionless. When you
no answer from Dr. Knight, and I left her a voicemail though, and I'll let you know when we get her.
Okay, well just keep trying her. Thanks so much. And when you hear my voice, Dr. Verholden will pivot as soon as we get her on. But so that's what, and I will address that on the air as well, because I'm not ignoring that because white people were killed. Are you kidding me? That's ridiculous. As I've talked about Kyle Rittenhouse, I've called him a boy, a child. And some people have given me pushback about that, but he is a child. And I hold, hey, India, hey, sweetie, I hold.
I know, right?
Oh yeah, but I
had
want you all
grandma
to.
duty last night.
That's right. That's right. That baby. But I hold. I want to. I want to find about his mama, his daddy, and all of these players around him who have, excuse me, who have supported him, and and who have made him think that what he did was correct. There's something about that that's not right. There's a lot that's happening here that ought to be concerning to you. But I would never sit around here
60 seconds.
and cheer someone, cheer the killing of anyone, or ignore the killing of anyone. But I think that what's happened in Waukesha, Wisconsin, we have to find. There's a lot that we just don't know. We just don't know. We do not know, and we have to find out. And I hope and pray that we will. But dig into this young man's background and find out why he was walking the streets anyway. It was clear that he was disturbed and dangerous. So think about that. Oh, thank you, Joyce.
10 seconds.
I see him bragging on TV, but you need to look at his mama and his daddy and the people around him.
We can change the world, change the world, change the world. We can change the world, we can change the world, change the world.
This is the Santita Jackson Show.
War and hate to a place of love, it's not too late. Gotta save the children, we can't wait. Let's change the world. I am breathing.
Hey, everybody, it's the Santita Jackson Show. Call me at 773-763-9278, 773-763 WCPT. Let's talk about these Thanksgiving protocols. What should you do to protect yourselves and protect everyone who comes into your home or into that Thanksgiving celebration tomorrow and over the next few days? Because, Thanksgiving does not end on Thursday. You eat Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday. At least that's what we do with our family because we have so much food, praise the Lord, and we just eat for days and days and days, and we move from home to home to home, eating. And it's a real blessing to be able to do it, but we're in a pandemic still, everybody. And so we want to know how we can do this safely. Dr. Fauci is saying that if you're fully vaccinated, now it's fully vaccinated, not just vaccinated, but if you've gotten, the so-called booster shots, which Dr. Deb is pushing back against, but I hear you, but they're calling them the booster shots. I guess one shot is clearly not enough. 2 shots, if you got the J&J, that's not enough. Now there are even some places are saying even 4 shots. Wow. It's just a whole lot. How often do you have to take these shots to have a barrier against you in COVID-19? And what else can we do to protect ourselves? But immediately, you need to know, should you serve your food buffet style? Should you have that turkey in the middle of the dining room table while everybody's breathing on the food? I mean, because part of the excitement, Dr. Deb, of Thanksgiving is watching that macaroni and cheese and that plate of greens. And my mother has beautiful plates and whatnot, and just putting that stuff on the table and the yams and the cornbread. Oh my gosh, all that and the turkey and the other meats. It is so exciting watching it all come out. But this year that might not be as safe. But now we got to think about using the restroom. We got to think about washing our hands. We got to think about being tested. We got to think about whether we are COVID positive or not when we go to our celebrations. So, Dr. Deborah Verholden, buffet style. Should we have buffet style food or not?
Yes, have all the food out and ask everybody to serve themselves and talk over the food and then wipe their noses and then touch the serving utensils so you can spread not just love, but germs. No, you should not serve the food. I'm sorry, you should not serve the food that way. And I love the idea. This is like Knighton 101, right? Like at this point, I feel like that was like sort of my joke during this the start of the pandemic. Most people did not know what an epidemiologist was, what epidemiology meant. I would tell people I'm an epidemiologist. They would show me a skin rash and say, well, I got these rash right here on my neck. And I said, that might be epidermiology, but really that's dermatology. I was like, I don't study the skin. I study epidemics, disease outbreaks. That's what an epidemiologist studies. We study epidemics or disease outbreaks. And I was so happy because nobody had ever really, definitely, most people did not know what an epidemiologist was. They didn't know what an epidemic was. They didn't know what a pandemic was. And then during this pandemic, I made a bunch of little mini epidemiologists, help people to understand numbers and how to think about them, help them to understand, all of these words. People know endemic, epidemic, pandemic, flattening the curve. What's the curve? Well, Dr. Knighton has brought us into that same world as in infection prevention. And I do feel like a junior infection preventionist. Like I want her to knight me and make me an ambassador of infection.
Hey, people, because
right?
Dr. Deb, people really, really need to know, because now when when we come out of the holiday, people are going to say, you're going to say there was a spike. Oh my goodness. So we need to get more vaccines. Look, clearly most people in America now are vaccinated. Okay. That is not the only thing that you need to do. Means you need to continue to boost your immune system. That having been said, practically speaking, how should we conduct our meals? How should people go to the restroom in your place? I mean, because Dr. Knighton made the point yesterday, no, the towels don't work now. You need paper towels so people can dry their hands. You need liquid soap. You don't need the bar of soap. So let's start with serving the food. Let's start with that. How should that look? What should that look like?
Well, so when you're serving the food, let's just pretend again that if somebody was COVID positive and shedding virus, they were radioactive. So they got this green glow around them. And everything that they touch and everything that they breathe on leaves a bit of that green glow on whatever it is that they touch and whatever it is that they go, right? Just think of that. Imagine everybody has got that radioactive glow, or just one person has it. And you want to avoid any one person from being the vector that infects everybody at the event. The utensils will serve as a site of cross-contamination. The utensils, if people we can't help it. People touch their face, they rub their eye, they sneeze in their hand, your nose will itch real fast, and you'll kind of, just hit it real fast with your index finger. You're not trying to have bad habits or be nasty. Most people, I think, are doing their very best to be mindful. So you want to limit the kind of things that people share and share contact with. And so if you have one person that's just serving the food, then all of a sudden you take the cross-contamination out from all the utensils, from all of the different dishes. Because that's the other thing. I don't know about your house, but in my house, it ain't Thanksgiving unless you have full protein and potatoes 4 ways. So we got potatoes 4 ways in my house, and I got 4 different proteins.
Oh,
that don't even include that don't include all the greens and we got a broccoli casserole, a green bean casserole. We got all kinds of stuff. So I probably have, between the desserts and the food, 20 different dishes that I'm serving. So that's 20 different serving utensils. That's 20 different opportunities for us to, share germs. So having one person serve the food is really smart, because that person, in my house, it will likely be me. I am going to get a COVID test today, and I'm going to be very mindful. And I will likely also be masked when I'm serving the food, because I don't want to be talking over the food, and I don't want people talking over the food. You can point and put your finger up. The point is what you want, and the finger up is 1 or 2 scoops. That's all I need to know.
Well, hold on one moment.
That's all I need to know.
Should you, before you serve the meal, as everybody gathers, explain, this is how we're going to do it this year. I'm going to be wearing my mask. There will be one person serving the food. Whenever you want anything, just let me know. I will go get it for you. And no talking over the food, everybody. Please, let's be careful, right? I mean, and somebody will say, well, I'm vaccinated, or I'm COVID negative. Like, you know what? The rules are the rules.
Yeah, see, the good news is for me, because I also do believe that people have to keep these events smallish. The people that are coming, we've already had these conversations, so people know, they'll be prepared. Even my one cousin was like, well, I'll help. She always wants to help. She's like, if it makes you feel better, I'll get a COVID test, before I come, and then I can help do whatever you want. Now, if you want to know something that would be really miraculous and really great, is if everybody had a COVID test and everybody was COVID negative. That would make me feel really great. That would have me feel more comfortable having a Thanksgiving like we used to have with none of this involved, but I don't think we're going to be able to accomplish that for everybody. And even if we did, a COVID negative test, I do believe is the best thing you could have as far as keeping yourself and your family safe. But you could have a COVID negative test and actually still be COVID positive, just not have accumulated enough viral load to come up positive on a test, but you could have enough viral load that you're shedding virus and could infect somebody else. It's a very small chance, right? But that is still possible. So I think, do a combination and do what you feel good about. Practice some prevention and have people come there prepared. My Thanksgiving protocol started before. It started in the preparation and the planning of the event and the confirming of our guests. That includes my children who live here, my one daughter who just moved out. She moved out 2 weeks ago, almost 2 weeks on Saturday it'll be. And then the 3 guests that are coming from outside of our home. So they'll be greeted by our prevention station. They'll come in. We've got the hand wipes. We've got the nosing, nasal swabs. We've got the mouthwash. They'll do all of that. They'll come in, and then I've got the seating all spaced out and spread out. My cousin and her boyfriend, they'll probably sit together. Like, I kind of thought it through, right? Because they're going to be exposed to each other the whole, Thanksgiving weekend, right? So that'll make sense. My daughter's best friend is coming. She'll mix and mingle with us. And I thought about it, even if there was somebody here who was COVID positive and all of these great, strategies that we're putting in place, what if there were to be any kind of, spread or something like that? We would at least have it be contained. So in an ideal world, it would be contained. It would be somebody at my house infecting somebody else in my house, or my cousin and her boyfriend sharing their germs with each other. Now that's all sharing all of our germs with each other. And so, yeah, I think the mindfulness that people could bring to it with the things that they understand would be great. I don't want people to be paranoid or so distracted that they're not able to enjoy themselves, because let us not forget, that's a very big part of how we do holidays. The one anothering and the fellowshipping and all of that, that is really important. Physical touch and interacting with loved ones is, supportive of people's overall well-being.
Absolutely.
And I think people's social, emotional well-being is just as important as their physical well-being. So what I'm asking people to consider is it can be a both and. It doesn't have to be either or. You can be both emotionally well and provided for and also physically well. And if you would just elevate that mindfulness and think, okay, what if I was the radioactive one? How would I be so that I would be limiting and minimizing me putting anybody else in harm's way?
Well, but that's
and
why.
Walk through that.
Well,
yeah.
But that's why we want to know. Like, if someone, people are going to have to use the restroom. You should not have cloth towels. You should have paper towels. You should not have bars of soap. You shouldn't have those anyway. You should have liquid soap. Should you wipe down the toilet seat with Lysol or something after each use? I mean, these are questions that I think we need to ask, Dr. Deb, because these places, these intimate spaces in our homes will be vectors where a lot of people get infected.
Yeah, so I have a little diagram that we have in my bathroom. It's a little diagram, and I'm going to laugh with people about this. And I will tell you, some of these things I got from Dr. Knighton, Other things, I hear Dr. Knighton, and I have a little graphic illustrator that works for me, so I'll sketch something out, by hand, and my, drawings all look like some third grader did them, and she'll turn it into a nice little graphic for me, and then I share it with other people. So I have it where people, when they go to leave, you grab a wipe, and there's wipes right there. This is after you've washed and dried your hands, throwing your paper towel into the wastebasket. You grab the wipe, you open the doorknob with your wipe with your hand with the wipey, you wipe it down, then you turn around behind you, you wipe down the knobs on the sink, you wipe the handle on the toilet, you wipe the light switch, you flip it down, you throw the wipey in the trash, and then you exit the bathroom. It's fast. It takes you like 15 seconds. But I have a little picture, like this is how I want you to come and go in the bathroom. And if everybody leaves the bathroom the same way, then whoever comes in behind them is coming into a clean bathroom. Why? Because I'm starting with a clean bathroom. I'm starting with the clean bathroom. And, I just hope people, and some of it might feel like, okay, she's really, really wild. I got to wipe the bathroom down myself. But yes, and I want that to happen because I want you to come into a clean bathroom, and I want anybody coming behind you to come into a clean bathroom. And it's funny, I'm very customer service oriented. I want the people that I work with to have an extraordinary experience. I want people who come to my house to have an extraordinary experience and be taken care of. Have you ever been to somebody's house and it's nowhere for you to put your coat?
Yes.
And you're like, dang, why didn't you think this one through? And then you go to somebody else's house and they've got it all figured out. They've got the closet designated for the first however many people, and then they've got a room and a bed that might have a blanket over it or something, and you can lay your coat out. And people have thought things through. It's a very different experience than being somewhere where somebody has thought things through than being somewhere where somebody hasn't. So what I'm really, hopeful for is that my people appreciate that I thought it through. It's not cumbersome. It's not too much. And I've already prepared myself. If people make comments or make jokes, that we're going to laugh it up together. We're going to laugh it up and just talk about, well, hey, it's this or Rona. What you want?
Well,
I want y'all to.
I want y'all to be safe. Let me get Mama D from Chicago. Mama D, what's on your mind?
Well, hallelujah, greetings to you.
Greetings to you. Happy Thanksgiving, Mama D.
Yes, well, to you all, the first protocol, limit the spirit of fear. We're all being taught to trust the scientists. Well, whatever happened to trusting the creator who created the scientists?
Oh, I hear you.
See, so I think that we got to realize this. Every day there's something new about this virus. It's not like polio. When it's polio, they give you a little bit of it. If your body forms a natural immunity and you don't get polio, you can get vaccinated. But if your case is so slight that you don't know you have it, you become the super spreader. Because you're the one that's super confident because you've had the shot and the after shot and then the booster shot. And if they come up with another shot, you'll be first in line to get it too. But at the end of the day, if you get it and know you got it, then you know where to go to get help so you stop the spread. But when you're falsely confident, this false sense of I'm all good. You're the one that's kissing the babies, and the babies are going to get it and then become spreaders of it. So you need to calm down. And can I just share with you what I'm thankful for?
Yes.
Okay. I'm thankful for being an NAA, an Indigenous Native American African. If your descendants were on the land before America became America in 1776, like the American Indian, you are American African, and we are both twin victims of the American genocidal Holocaust. And we just need to concentrate on stop the hate, turn up the love.
Stop the hate, turn up the love. I love it. I love it, Mama D, and I love you, and thank you for your support down through these many, many, many years on the radio and off. Sending you much love, Mama D.
Well, thank you so much. You know, I'm a Jacksonite. I just love each and every one of y'all.
Well, we love you. We love you, and I hope that you have a wonderful holiday.
Thank you. Stay back.
But stay safe. Call me at 773-763-9278, 773-763-9278. What are you grateful for this year? Boy, it's been quite a year, Dr. Deb. You've become a grandmother. And you at one point had 3 generations under your roof. What a blessing that is to have the people you love. I mean, oh, the baby's coming. What are we going to do? Now you can't imagine life without India, and we can't either. Paula said, "Oh, the baby's we're the baby." Wow, wow. What are you going to take extra precautions, or what are you going to do? How are you going to handle baby India, and how should people handle their babies, their toddlers, their newborns in this holiday season? Will she be kept away from the folks in your pod who are going to be there, or what's going to happen?
Yeah, she'll be in the mix with us. But what won't happen is there won't be passing around and kissing and hugging and holding and passing around baby India. And, you know, that's also a tradition. Mm-hmm. And it's so unfortunate because, you know, the immune system is a really great thing. And we used to always joke and talk about the neighborhood immunization program. You know, that's when you outside, you drop your lollipop and you pick it up, put it in your mouth,
Ooh.
Or you brush it off and put it in your mouth. Or that's when kids share food, share candy, and give me, you know, you got your drink and you pass it to your friend and they take a sip. And, you know, there is something to be said for, you know, we develop an immune system in the world, right? That's why our immune system gets developed. It doesn't get developed in a laboratory and through vaccines. Right? It gets developed and strengthened in the world. You know, baby India is lucky. Well, not lucky. She's very fortunate in that her mom gave her a great gift of COVID antibodies. Because her mom got vaccinated when she was 6.5, 7 months pregnant. So baby India got those antibodies, right? Because the COVID antibodies that her mom produced crossed the placenta, and baby India was born with COVID antibodies. Now, those antibodies will be waning. And it's a weird thing because the COVID babies, they haven't had very much exposure. I'm telling you, India's been out of the house for pediatric appointments. She's been out, I think, one other time other than that. I think she's only been out for doctor's appointments and one other time besides that. But she's probably only been out of the house 4 times in her life, which is strange because if we weren't in COVID, you know, she would be out all the time. I took my kids, my baby with me to many places. You know, I went to the grocery store. I took them with me. We don't go to the grocery store. I get my groceries delivered. I can avoid that. So I do, you know. So there is something that's lost. But I think the point that Mama D made was a good one, you know. And so this issue around people who are vaccinated being overconfident and potentially being the source of infection, that is very real. That's why I said I don't agree with what Dr. Fauci is saying. I think he's overselling something. And I think the message is dangerous because it implies if you're vaccinated, you can just get back to business as usual and you're good to go. And the real, you know, he's sort of saying the answer is to make sure that everybody's vaccinated. And I don't think the data support that. I think that's a political agenda to have somebody like Dr. Fauci, who people think is the end-all, be-all, say something like that is trying to just convince more people to get vaccinated. And I think that is a very dangerous message. I don't think it's a good message.
Well, I mean, let me tell you.
The science don't support it.
Well, my pushback on all of this is you're telling me this, but you're not telling me what I need to take if I develop COVID. Because I'm telling you, the governor of Texas, no symptoms. Or very, very mild symptoms. He didn't think he had COVID. They put him on therapeutics immediately so that the COVID would not mushroom. We've been talking about how we eat, what we eat, how we need to boost our immune systems. No one's talking about that. An infection preventionist, no one's talking to us about how we prevent infection. While they're telling me if I get a vaccine tomorrow, it's not going to, today, it's not going to work tomorrow. So what am I supposed to do with people coming in my home and you're just telling me just stay away from people another year? No, that's not going to work. People are not going to do that. I've got about a minute and a half, Dr. Deb. What is the closing thought that you want to give to people?
Yeah, I do encourage people, enjoy your family, this holiday season. We've all been, socially isolated. Life has looked very, very different for many of us. Like I said, baby girl India doesn't even know how different life has looked. This will be all that she knows, and because this is now endemic, it's just in the population, and that means it's going to be here for some undetermined amount of time. We are going to have to learn how to live with it. And so, I hope that the recommendations we give people are empowering. I don't want them to engender fear. I want them to empower people and say, I never thought about that. I never thought about that the serving utensils can serve as a source of contamination. I never thought about if somebody was sick and touched the serving utensil and they put it back on top of the food and it slides down into the food. I've just infected my whole dish. I never thought about keeping wipes in the bathroom and asking people to just wipe down behind yourself so that the bathroom stays as clean as it was when I set it up for my guests. I never thought about, having these conversations around the dinner table with people around what can we be doing to improve our health and boosting our overall immune system, not just to fight against COVID, but to just be fit for life, just to be fit for the fight called life. So, take it that way, have a season where really we are giving things, where we are starting to put our toe in the water and figuring out what it will look like to live with this thing called COVID-19, because that's what's happening. That's where we are.
And we're living with a lot of other things. Everybody, we've got to take care of ourselves. That is, what did Dr. Tisha Williams say? COVID is a snitch. It revealed a lot about what we are not doing well and what we can do, not just better, but what we can do correctly. Sending you much love, Dr. Deborah Furholden. We love you, admire you, and appreciate the service that you extend to us every day without fail. Epidemiologist, brilliant epidemiologist, Associate Dean of Public Health at Michigan State University's Medical School, everybody. She's building their school of public health. We love you, Dr. Deb, and we love India, and we love all your babies who are almost grown, kind of, sort of. We just love you. Happy Thanksgiving. Let's talk about just these trials. There's so many with Attorney C.K. Hoffler. Back in just a minute. Santita Jackson Show. Dr. Deb?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you, girlie. Thank you so much. We
tried to buddy this morning. She didn't make it.
She didn't make it. You probably cooking all night long. You know how that goes. I'm
not doing any of that till today. I told you what I did, right?
Ooh.
Since I couldn't get the Chaparro original, I got half of my dinner came from Honey Bake.
Oh, let me tell you, she is ordering for she's taking orders for Christmas. So honey, because she's delivering to me tomorrow morning. I'm just having like little, because I'm not going to take my leftovers like I used to from my brother's house, because of what Dr. Knighton has said.
I'm doing leftovers, right? When people, after everybody gets their first round served, then we're making the to-go.
Maybe I should do that. I should do that first, huh?
We're doing the to-goes early, because, that's the other thing. A lot of times, and have you ever been places where you look, it's like, dang, Nikki.
Sending Attorney Hoffler and Chaparro through?
I'm like, y'all can keep that.
Well, no.
So we're doing our to-goes very early. And that's the other thing. My plan is to actually have all of our food packaged by the end of the day, ready to go. There won't be some big turkey going in the fridge or some big ham. Nope, all that stuff's getting broken down, and people are taking it all. Somebody gave me a really great way to describe it. What did they call it? They called it like I forgot, like to-go something. I forgot what they said, but yeah, we had all that stuff packaged up, and leftovers will be packaged up after we eat our first round. And I'll probably leave out like some rolls and some protein and, the desserts and things like that. But yeah, it will look a little bit different. But take your to-go container to your brother's house.
See, well, only I take them all. Don't be fooled. No, I take bags. Thank you. And I'm going to also, grab that turkey because I always make turkey soup. After, and then I also use the ham to make split pea soup and things like that. So I save that bone.
I'm a turkey sandwich girl. I love a turkey sandwich. I love the turkey sandwich.
I used to.
I can't get enough of it.
Yeah, I break down that turkey bone and I make me a nice good old soup. Woo. And the ham, honey baked ham. Oh, honey, split pea soup for days. I do that. Oh,
yeah,
it's good. But I've got a CK Hoffler on. Attorney Hoffler.
Good morning, Santita. How are you?
Right now, you were on television all day yesterday.
No. But we're going to get the this morning, so I feel it this morning.
Now that's India, everybody. Everybody's so happy to hear. India, Jewel, you pull up with the Tupperware, so do I. But I pull up with the plastic bags. I have the Ziplocs, and I put those because I have glass serving dishes. I've moved away from plastic. But Dr. Deb, you still there?
I am, and I had to go on mute because somebody said, I want some attention, Grandma.
Oh.
I want some attention.
We could hear her, but she wasn't bothering us. Very, very
that's
happy.
The best sound ever. I miss those sounds. Everything now has a tone. I'm now into the zone of
I know you have boys, but now they got bass in their voice. A lot of bass.
Girl, tell her how tall your sons are.
6'3" and 6'5". 6'5" and growing.
Oh wow! Oh wow!
They did come from me. They did come
house and home.
I can't believe it. I remember when CK was pregnant. I'm like, what? When did this happen?
And I don't know what happened. Until they were like 3 or 4, they traveled with me. I had like a traveling caravan, and I used to have it down to a science. I had a double carriage. I had a briefcase on wheels. And when I would come to the airport, literally people felt sorry for me. I know that's what it was. And they would part like the Red Sea. Oh, okay, man, go ahead. We got you. I know they're like, who is this crazy woman with these kids? And I had it. I could do that little carriage, and they have the 1, 2, 3 buttons with one hand. And I put one child in the front with a little that little thing that you carry the kids in, and one in my hand, and we would go. That's how we roll. And then a lot of times I would have a traveling nanny who would come with me. Their dad would meet me. We had it all, but I insisted that they be
60 seconds
ages. So I love those sounds, India making those sounds. That reminds me of a wonderful time because you never get back those years. You never get them back if you miss them.
Well, it's so funny. My mother babysat a dear friend of ours in Honey. My mother was pregnant within months with my baby sister. Every time I see Courtney, I'm like, thank you, because I got my baby sister out of you. She said, what do you mean? I said, my mother babysat you. Your mother went back to work. My mother said, I'll take care of her. And she was like, Mrs. Jackson, really? She was, oh, yes. Honey, that was September. My mother in March was telling us, I'm having a baby. I'll never forget that as long as I live. It was like, you're having a what? We're about to have 5 kids here? Really? Who has 5 kids? Our next door neighbor, Ramsey Lewis, and his wife had 7 kids. 7.
Wow.
Ooh.
10.
Yeah.
Wow. 7. Whoa.
Yeah. Well,
it happened.
That's back in the day.
Back in the day. Okay.
Change the world. We can change the world. We can
do we have?
change the world. change the world.
This is the Santita Jackson Show.
War and hate to a place of love. It's not too late. Gotta save the children. We can't wait. Let's change the world.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Santita Jackson Show. Happy Thanksgiving Eve. It's Wednesday, November 24th, 2021. I'm Santita Jackson, coming to you from WCPT, the nation's largest progressive talk radio station, and AM 950 radio, the voice of progressive Minnesota. Call me at 773-763-9278, 773-763-9278. What are you thankful for? What are you grateful for? Call me like Mama D did. Of course, she wanted to talk about all of the politics, these trials that we've got. It's so much that's going on. But what are you grateful for? Call me, 773-763-9278, 773-763-9278. Of course, it's legal Q&A with CK, with attorney CK Hoffler. And then at the bottom of the hour, we're going to abbreviate it. We're going to move things around just a little bit today. Dr. Roxanne Dunbar Ortiz is going to talk about Thanksgiving from the Indigenous people's perspective. And really from the perspective of the people we don't hear from. We want to know what really happened on that first Thanksgiving, what's really been happening, and how should we really be celebrating Thanksgiving? Because the whole idea of Thanksgiving has evolved. Let's get to some of these headlines. Chicago will have a high of 51 degrees. It will be cloudy today. Minneapolis, St. Paul, a high of 49 degrees. It will be cloudy. The Dow closed up 194 points. The NASDAQ closed down 79 points. The S&P 500 closed up 7 points yesterday. In the NBA, well, tonight we're going to have some great basketball. The Timberwolves will be facing off against the Heat, and the Bulls will be facing off against the Rockets. And it's not going to be too shabby in the NHL. The Wild will be facing the Devils today. And last night, well, Chicago fell to the Flames. The Flames 5, Chicago's NHL team 2. Yes, I will not call them by their given name until they change it. I don't want to insult our Indigenous brothers and sisters. A jury awarded more than $26 million in damages yesterday after finding the White nationalists who organized and participated in the Unite the Right rally from 2017 in Charlottesville, Virginia, in which Heather Heyer lost her life. They were liable on state conspiracy claims and other claims, but the jury in the federal civil trial said it could not reach a verdict on 2 federal conspiracy claims. The violence during this rally turned the Charlottesville, Virginia, into a battleground for America's cultural wars. What do you think about that, everybody? What do you think about that? That's one down, many more to go. Now the jury has been charged with finding out whether the McMichaels and Mr. Bryan will be charged with the killing of Ahmaud Arbery. What do you think is going to happen? We're going to be talking with attorney C.K. Hoffler about that in just a couple of minutes. What's going to happen there, everybody? What is going to happen? And, many people want to talk about what happened in Waukesha. You tell me, what do you think happened? It was not a Black Lives Matter protester who committed that crime. It was a very disturbed individual. And so let us continue to look out what happened there. The House committee investigating the January 6th insurrection issued 5 new subpoenas yesterday targeting right-wing extremist groups that were involved in the attack, including the Oath Keepers and the Proud Boys. Dozens of members of both groups have been charged in the attack on the U.S. Capitol. Shortly before an SUV barreled into a crowd in Waukesha, Wisconsin, and that death toll, mind you, has risen to 6, everybody. At least one officer described the driver as having no emotion on his face during his attempts to slow him down. At least 6 people have been killed and another 62 have been injured, according to a criminal complaint filed in the Waukesha County Circuit Court. A jury in Ohio ruled yesterday that 3 major pharmaceutical chains bore responsibility for the opioid epidemic in Ohio. That is CVS, Walmart, and Walgreens. We will see where all of that will go. Call me at 773-763-9278. What are you grateful for? And what do you think about all of these trials? It's legal Q&A with CK at the bottom of the hour. We're going to be talking with Dr. Roxanne Dunbar Ortiz about what happened, what Thanksgiving, how it really started, and where it's really going. How do Indigenous people celebrate Thanksgiving? For many, it's a moment of reflection and a moment of mourning. I think we need to be mindful of that. We're going to talk about that in just a few minutes. But let's start with attorney CK. Legal Q&A with CK. Boy, you were all over the news yesterday. And boy, we thank heavens for that, because we have needed your analysis. Because now the jury is entering its second day of deliberations on the McMichael Bryan murder trial. They've been trying Ahmaud Arbery, but the fact is, it's the McMichaels and the Bryans who, Travis McMichael specifically, who killed him, but they all participated. And James, I'm going to come to you in a hot second, but what do you make of all of this? Because now it's like we've taken a breath with Kyle Rittenhouse, kind of, sort of, but he's now doing interviews, and there's that. Can he be sued civilly, Attorney Hoffler?
Absolutely. Kyle Rittenhouse absolutely can be sued civilly. And I will tell you, he's looking right sharp and fancy on TV. He seems like he's coming to a little money. He certainly can be sued civilly. That's the thing in our criminal justice system. When the criminal justice system fails, and there's a need for extensive reform in our criminal justice system and policing systems, but you can always sue someone civilly. The claim would be these would be wrongful death suits. Just as O.J. Simpson was sued, you recall, civilly, and they secured a verdict in the civil case against him, so can Kyle Rittenhouse be sued by the families of the two families of the decedent, as well as the injured person. That would be a personal injury case and a wrongful death actions. So absolutely, and I anticipate that will happen. But Santita, what's very interesting is the Kyle Rittenhouse case, the McMichael Bryan murder trials for killing Ahmaud Arbery, and the case in Charlottesville began at the same time. So I have had my eye on all three of them. They're like a trifecta in terms of what they say about where we are in this country today as relates to race relations, as relates to self-defense, as it relates to vigilantism. And we have now one case where someone was acquitted across the board in Kenosha, Wisconsin. We have a case in Wisconsin that's a civil case, and that was the first one was a criminal case, a civil case, where there's been some victory. And the reason why they went after the organization is because the thought, if you impact in their pocket these organizations, they cannot fund all of the destructive acts. And it has had an impact on the organization. And when you do get a verdict, even if it's appealed, probably at some point it will settle and they will have to pay. So so the second case, for those who believe in social justice and those who believe that it is completely improper to run a car through a protest or kill people in that way, especially when it's fueled with white supremacy and racial animus, that was a victory in Charlottesville. So now we've got this third case, the murder of Ahmaud Arbery. We saw a very compelling, and let me just set the stage from a legal standpoint for your audience, Santita. So in closing arguments, and closing arguments are completely different from opening statements. During the opening statement, as you will call, the prosecutor and the defense, all they did was forecast what they expected the evidence to be. And by the way, as much as we'd like to think differently, what lawyers say is not evidence. In an opening statement, we are forecasting the evidence. The evidence comes in two ways. One, through the witnesses, what they say, that's evidence. And then there's documentary evidence. There could be documents that are submitted. They're also evidence, video evidence. That's what we saw in the Ahmaud Arbery case. We saw a lot of video evidence. We heard testimony from witnesses. There were some documents also that came in. That's the evidence, and that's what the jury will consider, that body of evidence. So opening statements forecast. When you get to, then you've got the evidence that's laid through all those different forms I've said. And then after that, you have, there's some legal motions, and then what you have are the closing arguments. Arguments are completely different from statements. Arguments are where you go there. You take risks. You take it to the limit. You talk about circumstantial evidence. You give what you speculate happened, because you're allowed to do that in closing arguments. And it is not usual. In fact, it's unusual for one side or the other to
to object during closing arguments because there is more flexibility, there is more leeway, but sometimes the other side really just can't help him or herself. Now, there are two types of objections. Sometimes you may object to preserve the record, but when you're doing that, you may do it very discreetly. Your Honor, you object. Your Honor, may I approach the bench? You talk about it with the judge. He might give you a standing objection on that issue, and that's it, because you don't want to interrupt the flow. Jurors don't like that, by the way. They're like, wait a minute, I had to sit through all this other, now you're going to sit and object during closing? Let's get on with it. We want to be able to deliberate. But what we saw in the trial of the McMichaels and Mr. Bryan was, in closing, not just in a discreet way, all boisterous, angrily, objections by the defense, because one thing strategically that was great, and I do this too, but it was really great and effective here. When you are the person who bears the burden of proof, you get the last word. So that's the prosecutor in this case. She's got to prove her case beyond a reasonable doubt, and she's got to disprove the defenses beyond a reasonable doubt. So she gets the last word. So what she did, which strategically is always just, I would say, brilliant, she gave just a little bit of something in the beginning and her closing. So she just said, you know what, just hit on the high points in the closing, the first part, 30 minutes, because she had 2.5 hours, and she reserved the bulk of her closing for rebuttal. Why is that important? You have to be able to give this jury a reason to rule in your favor. And to do that, you've got to annihilate the other side's arguments as much as you can with the evidence. Talk to those jurors. This is the first time since opening statement that the prosecutors have been able to, and the defense attorneys have been able to look at those jurors in the eye and talk to them. Remember, during trial, you cannot make eye contact. You cannot talk to the jurors in the hall. If they say good morning, Ms. Hoffler, I cannot say good morning back to them. I cannot address them. In fact, if they're coming from the left, I need to go to the right or something. Get out of their way, because it is improper, unethical, and the judge instructs the lawyers not to speak to the jurors. That is an infraction that could result in a mistrial. So you've not been able to talk or make eye contact, really not talk to them directly, and then closing arguments, you go there. I always like to almost be in the jury box with them, and this is your chance to connect with them, and that's what the prosecutor did in her rebuttal. She went through methodically and systematically, and her manner and demeanor was very, very laid back, sort of, not real intense except for uncertain times, and she addressed two major legal issues. One, this notion of a citizen's arrest, which dates back to that old slavery law where you could just, when you had a runaway slave, anybody could just do a citizen's arrest when they were in the midst of committing a crime, which was running away if you were a slave. Well, modern day world, Georgia, at the time of Ahmaud Arbery's murder, had a law on the books that allowed citizen's arrest. Now, it's very clear for me from the evidence that the McMichaels, and Mr. Bryant knew nothing about the citizen's arrest. They didn't announce a citizen's arrest. They didn't tell Ahmaud Arbery about a citizen's arrest. They didn't do the things or meet the elements of a citizen's arrest. However, after the fact, once you get indicted and all that kind of stuff, that's their defense. Citizen's arrest, they thought he was committing a crime. He was a big, bad, black boogeyman. They thought he was a danger to them. They thought their lives were in danger. Well, the video speaks 1,000 words. You can look at the video and understand that was not the case. For 5 minutes, he was chased down with vehicles. For 5 minutes, Ahmaud Arbery was running. For 5 minutes, ladies and gentlemen, 5 minutes.
See, but what concerns me?
Think about that.
Yeah, what concerns me is the defense attorney, Kevin Goff, Mr. Bryan's attorney. He is speaking to not just the 12 people in the room. He's speaking to the culture of the county. About
he is,
just to be clear, to let everyone know, he is the attorney who said that there were too many black pastors in the courtroom. He objected to seeing.
And he's the attorney who's been really the most ridiculous, the most, in my impression, unethical throughout the trial.
But see,
there's one thing to be a zealous advocate, but there's another thing to take it on that level.
Is he being ridiculous, or is he responding to the culture? Because he lives down there, and I saw him on Chris Cuomo's show last night, and he is pressing that point. He is not letting that go. He's a pit bull on that point, CK.
Whatever. This is what I say.
I want to know, who is he talking to? Who is he talking to?
For 35 years. Well, I think he's the only audience that counts right now, Santita. Forget about the community. That does not count. The only audience that counts right now is that jury, an audience of 12 people. Whether it resonates in the community and everything, that's not even, honestly, and I hate to break it down this way, it's not relevant for this trial. The only audience that counts is that jury. And lawyers, when you are in a trial, you say, you present, you speak, you demonstrate, you illustrate. All the things that you do are designed to persuade that jury. You do due diligence on that jury. You know everything that there is to know about those jurors. And with social media, it's so easy to find that out. And what you don't know, you get during voir dire. And in a small community, you can find out. So you speak to those jurors. Worry about the community later, because that's not what's relevant in a case like this. It's high profile. He's for sure, even if he loses, to be on television for 3 or 4 weeks as a lawyer saying all kind of stuff, he's going to get a lot of business. So we can't focus on the community and speak to the community, because in that community, there's a rift, a very significant rift. I did not realize that the mayor there was Black. I didn't realize until all of the extraordinary efforts of Rainbow Push and Reverend Jackson, Transformative Justice Coalition, and others, the magnitude and the depth of the Black community there. And I lived in Atlanta, Georgia, and still didn't have that level of intelligence. But Santita, so you're making a great point, but for purposes of this trial and where we are now, only that the community is of 12 people. And by the way, I believe those 12 people do reflect a segment of the community. Yeah. And that segment of the community could be the very same segment that testified at trial on behalf of the McMichaels.
Well, that's what, because I'm just only saying, I realize this, he is talking to a group of 12. That's who. But they come from the community. Right. Let me bring on James from Chicago, because he wants to weigh in. James, what's on your mind?
Everything. I admire your knowledge and your courage, and your guest knowledge and courage. I want to take this time once again to give praise and thanks to the so-called Caucasian human beings. I said so-called because we all human. But I want to give praise and thanks to the Caucasian human beings who are not supporting and going along with this constant, inhumane, white supremacist, psychopathic conduct that means no human, no good. And it just continues to grow and grow. Did you give any thought as to why the psychopaths filmed the outbreak murder? Did you give that any thought?
Of course.
Yeah, okay. Well, they filmed it because they are dehumanizing us. They want the world to see, like the lynching, the castration. They want the world to see, that's what you do to these people. That's why they film it. And that's why we got this killing us by them all over this country. They are sitting at the table, Santita. I'm going to go, but again, I want to give praise and thanks to Caucasian people who said, I am a human being. I am not a psychopath, and I'm not going to contribute to this conduct. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, and happy Thanksgiving to you. Sending you much love. We're going to be talking with Dr. Roxanne Dunbar Ortiz about what really happened during Thanksgiving. What is the real story of Thanksgiving? Can't wait to hear her thoughts. She's known as the Mythbuster. I've got a couple minutes here. And Attorney C.K. Hoffler, I want to know from you, do you think we might even get a verdict, one of the Friday verdicts that they call them? Or do you think this will take some time for this jury to really to mull over, to really to figure out?
Well, I think we're going to get a verdict this morning.
What?
And the reason why I say that is last night, last night,
the judge asked the jurors, did they wish to, it was getting late, continue the deliberations or come back in the morning. They said, oh, no, we're just working on an issue. We want to continue. Whenever a jury says that, they're close to reaching a verdict.
Oh, wow.
So they continued, and then about an hour or so later, they broke. The judge broke for the night. So by all indications, and I could be wrong, I really could be wrong, by all indications, we may get a verdict sometime today, but maybe even as early as this morning.
Wow.
They're going to begin their deliberations again at 8:30. And so, as someone who does legal commentary, what we're doing is we're all speculating. We're using our experience and, having done jury trials. I mean, this is the most unbelievably difficult place for a lawyer to be in because you just don't know. You're second guessing everything you said that you did and all that kind of stuff. And when jurors ask a question or move, you read into it. You try to read into the tea leaves. Remember, it took the jury in the Kyle Rittenhouse case 3 days to come back with a unanimous verdict across the board of not guilty. So we can't read too much into it. But I will say this, Santita, we do have to say prayers for the modern family.
Ooh.
Say prayers and thank them for their tenacity, for their relentless advocacy for their son, and for having changed the fabric of that community because they refused to be denied. We must thank them. We must pray for them and thank them on Thanksgiving. Thank that we have a family like that who has changed the fabric of that community and, by the way, how this country will perceive Black families, brown families fighting back when their loved ones are killed at the hands of law enforcement or in a citizen's arrest scenario like we had in Ahmaud Arbery's case.
Slave catcher. That's really what it was. Unbelievable. We love you, Attorney C.K. Hoffler. Thank you so much for your commentary, for your brilliance, and for sharing that with us every Wednesday. We're abbreviating this segment with Attorney C.K. Hoffler today because we are going to speak with Dr. Roxanne Dunbar Ortiz. She's one of the foremost scholars on American history. And we're so honored to have her today. She has the Indigenous Peoples History of the United States. That's right. So what is Thanksgiving about from the perspective of the Indigenous people? What do you think about that? What's the real story of Thanksgiving, everybody? Let's talk about it on the Santita Jackson Show on WCPT 820, the nation's largest progressive talk radio station at AM 950 Radio, the voice of progressive Minnesota. Back in just a minute. CK.
Yes, my dear.
Hey. How you doing, girl?
I'm good. I'm in prayer for the family.
I caught a picture of Ahmaud Arbery's mother coming out of the courtroom, the Daily Mail, whatever their politics, they do have great pictures that accompany their stories. And what was painful watching her walk out with Attorney Merritt, and you could see the anguish on her face. She was crying.
Sending Chaparral through.
Thank you. Mm-hmm. She was weeping, but she was walking. And I
Absolutely.
said, but no one is showing a photo of his dad, and that grieves me greatly. Because it was his father.
It grieves me too.
Who pursued this. This father drove back, knowing in his heart that something bad had happened to his child. Drove back, he's a trucker, and hit the ground running. He said, you're going to tell me what happened to my son. You're going to tell me what happened to my baby. And we cannot ignore the fact that it was his father. My pastor, Reverend Clay Evans, God rest his soul, he said, when real men stand up, mess sits down. And a real man stood up. And we need to give him the credit for that. That does not take away from Ahmaud Arbery's mother. But that family was led by that father. And he pushed with his family.
Dr. Roxanne through?
Yes. Yeah, I just, that bothers me that they don't give that man any credit. They act like he's not even there. Like Ahmaud didn't have a daddy. Like he wasn't named after his daddy. Are you kidding me? Problematic. Doctor? It's a problem.
And I understand that every opportunity I get, I'd like to bring out that his father did this, his father did that, his parents did this, his parents did that.
I know, I've
his
seen
family the community rally behind this family because of the incredible work that they've done. That was led by his father. But I say this, that we have to change the narrative of how people perceive us. We have to do it. We can't. Yeah. We have to force a different narrative. No one's going to do it for us, just as you're about to have a great conversation about the real meaning of Thanksgiving, how Indigenous people feel about it. That's the real conversation.
To me,
we need to make sure that conversation is heard. Yes, it is, Santita, because that's not, as we celebrate Thanksgiving, what are we celebrating? Let's think of the origins of it. So I am encouraged and so excited to hear a perspective that is not often heard and that is not often promoted but needs to be promoted. And again, we have to change the narrative because we can't rely on others to do it for us. They're changing their narrative.
You're right.
We have to change ours.
You're right. We're the ones who have to do it. I want you to meet Dr. Roxanne Dunbar Ortiz. Dr. Roxanne Dunbar Ortiz, my mother's roommate, on these freedom-seeking missions that my mother used to go on very frequently. And my mother adores Dr. Dunbar Ortiz. And I'm so glad that you're with us, Dr. Dunbar Ortiz. My mother sends her love. She's actually, I think, listening this morning. This is kind of early for her.
Okay.
But I told her that I was going to have you on. She said, well, that means I'm going to have to get up and listen. I said, thank you, Mom.
Well, Dr. Dunbar Ortiz, it's so great to meet you in this way through our magnificent Santita. And I can't wait to hear what you're going to say. And thank you so much for what you do. And Santita, we have to say thank you to you. I know you don't like to hear it, but we must. When we celebrate this holiday, let's celebrate those heroes and heroines, sheroes like Santita Jackson, who give the platform for honest and open discussion on critical issues that impact
10 seconds, everyone.
Every single day.
I just love
you,
you.
Santita, too.
I feel, that double for you. I love my attorney, C.K. Hoffley, who is also my dear friend.
Change the world, change the world. We can change the world, we can change the world, change the world.
This is the Santita Jackson Show.
War and hate to a place of love, it's not too late. Gotta save the children, we can't wait. Let's change the world.
You all are so sweet. I love you, everybody. This is Santita Jackson on the Santita Jackson Show. WCPT 820, the nation's largest progressive talk radio station, and AM 958 radio, the voice of progressive Minnesota. It's Wednesday, November 24th, 2021, the day before Thanksgiving. Some people are excited about Thanksgiving. Other people are in mourning. We're going to talk about Thanksgiving from the perspective of truth and from the perspective of Indigenous peoples. As we do that, we missed Chapearl at the top of the hour. Chapearl, celebrations by us. Chapearl, are you ready to give us our food? Number one, are you ready to bring me my food? When am I getting it? Today or tomorrow?
Yes, Santita. I am actually in the kitchen right now, getting ready to prep and get everything. I have some deliveries today, so I just want to thank everyone who supported us this season, and we are looking forward to helping you for as well. So give us a call at 708-526-4546. That's 708-526-4546, and that's celebrationsbyus.org. And you can get all of your Christmas cookies as well as also your cakes and pies, and of course the famous food, which is the turkey, the dressing, the ham, the mac and cheese, the Cajun pasta, mazzaroli, whatever it is that you need for your holiday table. Don't hesitate to give us a call, and we'll be ready to deliver for you tomorrow, Santita. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Oh, selfish me. Everybody. Oh, the Santita Jackson Show. It's the day before Thanksgiving, and for many of us, it has evolved into a time when we get together with family and with people we love, and be mindful of those who don't have anyone with whom they can celebrate, or just celebrate being together, knowing that they're connected to someone. I want you to call me today at 773-763-9278, but I'll understand if you just kind of hold on, because I want you to hear from this brilliant scholar. There are very, very few. We can't take people like Dr. Roxanne Dunbar Ortiz for granted, because they don't grow on trees, as my father says. She's the author of An Indigenous People's History of the United States. mean, it's important for us to look at her book, The Roots of Resistance, A History of Land Tenure in New Mexico. I mean, what is the indigenous people's history in the United States? This is history that we don't hear about. You know, it's a history that we need to hear about. We need to know what Thanksgiving really, what happened then? What really happened? What is it about? How do indigenous people look at Thanksgiving? You know, the pilgrims, we said we celebrate them coming over here and overtaking someone's land. How do you think indigenous people feel about that? What happened with Thanksgiving? What is Thanksgiving? What's the original Thanksgiving about? And as one group says, it's truths giving, the true history of Thanksgiving, and what should we be doing to really make things right? Dr. Roxanne Dunbar Ortiz. I'm honored to have you with us today. How are you?
I'm fine, Santita. It's really wonderful to be with you again, and hello to all of your listeners. You are a treasure.
Sweet. I take that on behalf of my mom, your dear, dear sister and friend.
Well, she's a treasure too. Oh, your whole family.
Well, I feel that way about you because, you know, I tell you, you give us a sense of history that, you know, you and my mother are kindred spirits. And I always appreciate people. My mother would say, wait a minute now, Lincoln he wasn't in love with black people now. He had to save the Union. He was the president. And Thanksgiving, it didn't quite happen that way. And I heard that as a baby. So tell me, what is Thanksgiving and what does it mean to indigenous peoples? What happened?
Well, you know, there's so many contradictions between reality and the mythology that builds up around us, that we're colonial state, nation. But, you know, it was invented, Thanksgiving was invented during the Civil War, had never been celebrated or talked about or even named, you know, until at the very height when the Union Army was in retreat, people, thousands and thousands of young men getting killed. And Lincoln proclaimed a day of Thanksgiving, a day for families to come together and mourn the dead and share food and pray, you know, for success and for the end of the war. And no pilgrims, no Indians, nothing like that was mentioned in that proclamation. That's a perfectly fine day to celebrate, in my view. And that's really how most people do view Thanksgiving in their actions, I think. Families really, you know, it's a phenomenon. How many people are on airplanes going home to their families, maybe even families that they have difficult relationships with? There's this desire, you know, for community in this very individualistic capitalist society. So they ruin it by later on, I say during the Depression, Franklin Roosevelt declares it a national holiday. And at that time, historians and, you know, people maybe trying to, there are a lot of immigrants who come in, immigrants and all trying to create a more cohesive nation. You know, there's a lot of division and fightings and a right-wing movement, pre-fascist, very much like we have now. White nationalism, of course, there's Jim Crow in the middle of lynchings, and it's a really horrible time. And this is when they bring in, you know, this mythology of Thanksgiving and the Indians, and of course, Native people had nothing to do with this story that then became what Thanksgiving was supposed to be. So it became a national holiday. It wasn't a national holiday for Lincoln. It was one day to celebrate, not every year. So it was made an annual celebration. So I think it was partly of a number of Eastern European and Italian immigrants who had come in, the Industrial Revolution, the socialist movement in the early 20th century that was very powerful and really, really attractive to people. Even in my home state of Oklahoma, they were electing socialists all over the place, practically controlled many towns, flying red flags, So it's a way of creating a kind of origin story and a patriotism. So it doesn't have good roots. The story itself is told as a fable. It's really turned into a celebration of genocide with this sympathy for the victims. That somehow they got off to this great start, being friendly and all. I mean, Native people were not surprised by these people who came ashore. Already for about 30 years, 3 decades, there were trade ships, from Europe, mainly from England, offshore, and Native people took out goods to trade and food, especially. They were, raised food, and bought items that were useful, ironware, and so forth. So that trade had been going on for decades. So they were not unfamiliar, but no one had come ashore and, tried to take over anything until the Puritans. And it's important to know that the Pilgrims, I'm going to call them the Pilgrims, were a corporation. They were a corporation. This is a European colonizing practice. They formed a corporation. They owed them, those who invested in them, that they would become productive and send back, and pay off their investment. So it was really a corporation that set up. They had with them, and every colonizing venture after that had with them the military people, mostly who've been fighting Muslims in Turkey and very hardened. So they didn't come friendly. They knew people were there. It was like, oh, who are these people? We've never seen them before. They were familiar with them. And
let me establish this. We're talking with Dr. Roxanne Dunbar Ortiz, the author of the book An Indigenous People's History of the United States, and her latest book is Not a Nation of Immigrants. Ooh, I'm going to have to ask you about that before we go. Because I know that's going to light the fires of a whole lot of people. And, definitely we're hearing that Dr. Ortiz, Dunbar Ortiz, is just a little, it's a little muffled, so we want to fix that. But you're saying that this was, the American project really was a business project.
It was a business project, and the United States was really founded as a kind of corporation. And it was always about money. It was, capitalism developing. And what's unique about settler colonialism, as opposed to, or in contrast to, the horrible, also genocidal colonialism like in Africa, where dominate and, make enslave the people. And you want the labor rather than the land itself. You have access to the resource. You want the resources of the land, but not necessarily to occupy it, except by the military. But settler colonialism in the United States was the first fully developed, the first settler state ever founded as a republic. The British had been colonizing the Irish for a couple of centuries, and they had recently developed Ulster, the northern, what's called Northern Ireland today, where they brought settlers in to replace the Irish. So this was really the first experiment. So they were practiced in obliterating people and replacing them. So that's really what settler colonialism is to just not to use the labor of the people, to take the resources. That's colonialism. That's bad. But to actually obliterate the people themselves and take their land and sell the land to Europeans to come. And the real estate then becomes, land becomes a commodity. It becomes real estate. And that was first done in the United States, in the pre-United States, in the colonies, where land was the most important commodity. And that meant getting people ethnically cleansing, getting people off of it so they could sell it to European settlers and, build, and also during the colonial time, mainly to develop these huge agribusiness plantations raising non-food crops like tobacco, cotton, and so forth, to and with enslaved African labor. So that's the Thanksgiving then is the invention of it. The mythology is I think a way of again erasing, having a kind of romantic view of the Indians, and then sort of how sad, that they had to be done away with because, they couldn't adjust to they started making war on the intruders, and because the intruders were taking their land. And remember, part of the mythology is they were just, people kind of roaming around in the woods, native people, but they weren't. They had extensive, intensive agriculture, subsistence agriculture, but also trading with other towns. They lived in towns, villages, and they had fields all around. They had deer parks that they cleared the forest so deer would come to them. They didn't go tromping out in the woods to take deer. The deer parks, the deer could live and be free until they became food, but they weren't hunted down. They lived their lives in these beautiful deer parks where they had planted succulent food, for the deer, and within, beautiful forests. So there was no wilderness at all. It was all manicured. It was all developed over 10,000 years by the native people. So there's so many layers of the mythology that are intertwined with the Thanksgiving myth that it's like pulling layers off and getting to the core of what was. And that's really how U.S. Patriotism, origin stories, the origin stories change over time. And now we have we still have, I think, the Native scholars have done amazing things in the last 50 years, starting with people like Darcy McNichol and Vine Deloria Jr. back in the 50s. Building is really part of the part of the larger civil rights movement that was going on and less visible outside of Indian country, and also inspired, by the civil rights movement, so that Red Power burst forth in the 1960s, and it raised really a level of consciousness. The Alcatraz, which is this time of year, the Alcatraz was occupied for 18 months, really put it on, in the world, out into the world, and that sort of waned in the 1980s. With a new generation. It was a horrible COINTELPRO crushing of Red Power, just like the Black Power movement and Chicano and others, just crushing them and killing and imprisoning them. So, of course, that has its effect. But they had built certain things, and they had built this process of, education. They didn't really need affirmative action because what they got was Bureau of Indian Affairs scholarships for Native people to go to college. There were only a very few, maybe 4 or 5 Native Americans with PhDs, 2 or 3 medical doctors, a few more lawyers, but maybe, you could count on both hands, maybe 10, 12, in 1970. So what's developed since then is this education, Native American studies programs that started being established at that time. So whole generations have had access to Native knowledge of what happened. For generations now, and I think it's really paid off, and there are just hundreds, thousands of Native PhDs teaching in universities all over the country. Phil DeLoria, Brian DeLoria's son is at Harvard in the history department. And the publications, there's just a lot of access, and because it's very televised and everyone knowing about the Standing Rock Uprising and other environmental movements of Native people are really leading the world. Other, Indigenous people also in other countries are leading the anti-fossil fuel climate catastrophe prevention movement around the world, with a huge demonstration in Glasgow of Indigenous peoples around the world. I couldn't even see the end of the march. It took place. So there's a lot more knowledge now and interest, and I think people have gone back to Thanksgiving. Their teachers are no longer trying to round up some Native person to bring into the first grade class and the little kids have made their little pilgrim hats and all of that. I don't think that happens anymore.
And thank heavens for that. But which leads me to your latest book, which is Not a Nation of Immigrants, because I think what I appreciate about your body of work is that it's very consistent. It really helps us to see our true history, and Indigenous people's history of the United States. We have to know that. But what is Not a Nation of Immigrants about? Why did you choose to write it?
Well, it was the Alexander Hamilton the musical that spurred me to write it, because that is a 3-hour extravaganza celebrating the nation of immigrants. And there's a very funny scene where Hamilton and the French royal guy, who fought in the Revolution, 20-year-old guy, they were great buddies, and you're riding their horses together, and they say, "Immigrants, get the work done." And of course, neither one of them are immigrants. There's no such thing as immigrants. There's no United States yet. And Hamilton was a citizen of the British Empire. which it was, was a British. Everyone was British until independence, and the French he was just over to fight. He was militaristic, and he certainly didn't stay. He went back to his wealth in castles, and of course they were overthrown a few years later in the French Revolution. But it's just an absurd thing of having having all the founding fathers and enslaved people in a 3-hour musical list. So Ismail Reed, I don't know if you know Ismail Reed, he got me into, there were several that got together, Ismail and the leadership. He wrote a play. That was in 1915. 2015, the play came out in 2015.
I've got about a minute left.
Yeah, and
you've got to promise me you're going to come back.
I will. But that term was invented by John F. Kennedy. It's not that old, the nation of immigrants. So what it is really explaining what settler colonialism is. And that when immigrants start coming in the 1870s, how they get Americanized and become settlers.
Oh, look, because everybody, she did write an essay, Columbus Day helped Italians become white. She never stops. I'm telling you, she's a flamethrower, but a truth teller. Indeed, she's been called the myth buster. You've got to get the books, Indigenous Peoples and Indigenous Peoples History of the United States, Not a Nation of Immigrants. Dr. Roxanne Dunbar Ortiz, just helping us to understand who we really are, how we got here. There's a path for us to being where we are, how we got here. And the only way that we're going to understand it is if we tell the truth. If we understand that this is a moment of mourning for our Indigenous brothers and sisters. And how do we make it right? We tell the truth. And we seek the truth. And, and we apologize. And then we try to redeem ourselves by trying to make things right, by working to make things right. Don't just try, make it right. Everybody, I pray that you are with someone you love tomorrow. I hope that you will tell the people that you love them. Don't take this moment for granted. Please don't. Here, I've lost a dear friend who was like a sister to me. And then I was faced with having my parents both with COVID. And I couldn't help but see as I looked at Colin Powell making his transition, I said, both of my parents had COVID and they survived. Oh boy, I have so much to be grateful for. If I didn't eat a morsel, but I plan to do that tomorrow, I thank God for that. And I pray that you all will find, so much to be grateful for. It's right before your eyes. And make sure you reach out to someone who might not have someone. Tell them that they're cared for, that you see them. You might save their lives, everybody. Have a blessed and bountiful Thanksgiving. Thank you for honoring me by being with us today, Dr. Roxanne Dunbar Ortiz. Thank you for your body of work. Thank you for being a truth teller. Thank you for all that you've done and do. And I can't wait to have you back. Not a Nation of Immigrants. This flamethrower. I love her. Everybody, I love you. Happy Thanksgiving. May God bless you.
Hey.
Thank you so much, Dr. Dunbar Ortiz.
I'll be right back. I'll switch things over.
Thank you so much for being with us today. Carol and Anna, Johnson Gray and Philip and Daphne and Daryl and Jewel and John. That's right. Oh, absolutely, John. You've got my love and prayers and Waukesha. I didn't even know what to say because it is so crazy. And when I see, and the more I see, the more I find out about the gentleman who committed this heinous act. I said, what was he doing on the streets? And when you look at him, he does not look like he is stable. He does not look like he's well. So I'm trying to figure out how is he going to beat a woman and get out on $1,000 bail? You understand what I mean? Just something about that is off and crazy, really. So There's a lot, and I'm just going to continue to watch, and I think about those marching grandmas whose lives were taken from them. Oh my gosh, can you imagine what their families are going through right now? Oh my goodness. I also think about the Huber family and the Rosenbaum family, and Mr. Grosskreutz, who was shot by Kyle Rittenhouse, and the Hubers and the Rosenbaums, whose loved ones, whose sons were killed by Kyle Rittenhouse, and he's being elevated as a hero today. We've got to stop and get things right, everybody. We got to get things right. Not get better, get right. Get right. Get right. So have a blessed Thanksgiving, everybody. Keep in touch with me. I'm going to be off for a couple of days, and I'm getting a lot of things together. I'm going to be making some changes on the show in the coming year, and I can't wait to share those with you. And I thank you for growing with me. Thank you for letting me into your life. Thank you. I'm humbled by the fact that you all get up with us every day. I want to thank Medi for getting out of bed early to make sure that the sound is right. I want to thank Dr. Marnie Reeves for doing the same, Attorney Medi Rodriguez, and of course, Dr. Marnie Reeves. I want to thank Chaparral for all that, all of you, Mark and Lorraine, all that you all do, Paula, Michael, Ann. These are like folks who I've been with since I got on the air the first day. I just want to thank all of you, and Jewel and Carol from the left coast. I'm sending you much love. And Daryl, I see you, I see you, I see you. And I thank you for being with us today, giving us your story. I hear you and I see you, Linear Bob, out in Silicon Valley, sending you a whole lot of love. Let me see. You do need to get another book. Get Dr. Roxanne Dunbar Ortiz. You want to get her books. She really is a treasure. She is a treasure. And like I said, she and my mother have been on a lot of fact-finding missions down through the years. And it's just been a real blessing to be able to encounter her in this work that I do. Let me give you, that's her name, and just get her books, because her books really do help you to understand our true history and where we've been and why we are here. There is a reason that we are where we are. So Dr. Roxanne Dunbar Ortiz, everybody. I love you. Have a wonderful, wonderful, somebody's going to be on the air. We're going to have some best of shows tomorrow and on Friday, but I will not be here until Tuesday. Okay? So, love you. Yes. I will see you. Oh, I'll see you, everybody. See you next week. God bless you. And happy Thanksgiving. Mwah.